It was good to see all in one place what makes a good teacher a good teacher. And no matter whether you're starting out or you've been doing it for a while, there's always room for improvement. And it was good to just see it in a structured place. How do I get better at being a teacher?
I love the fact that I can go in and do a self-reflection in addition to the evaluator's reflection of my work. And I love the fact that there are very specific components that I can go through and figure out my strengths and my weaknesses.
I like the PGP plan that we were able to set goals at the very beginning of the school year and be able to look back at those goals and see if we were staying on track. We were able to decide what we thought we would get as an overall evaluation and then meet with our administrator and be able to defend our lesson a little bit to compare what they gave us to what we gave ourselves.
Honestly, I believe that VSET made me realize I didn't have to work quite as hard as I was working. And I love that it gave the students more ownership of what they were learning, because that's what it focuses on. It's really on what the students are doing and not what we're doing every day.
I do think that this VSET model was made for CTE classes. As our administration said, distinguished is a place you visit, it's not home. I think CTE teachers have more of an opportunity to make a home in some of those distinguished areas because our programs are so student-driven. They're not as much book learning or teacher taught as it is the kids doing the work themselves. And I think this model for CTE teachers is a dream. I think it best serves us over everyone else.
I think that, we're not used to having a rubric that lays out 22 components and shows us, exactly what basic is, exactly what proficient is, and exactly what distinguished is. And now that we do, it really allows everyone to zero in on, a word or two that would take a teacher's teaching from being proficient to distinguished to spectacular. So I appreciate the way that we're really able to have a true focus and the way that the process encourages that.
The biggest challenge I thought was wording what you thought was a good lesson. Being able to try to go from a proficient to a distinguished really dealt with the whole wording process. One or two words could throw you off and bring you to a distinguished, or if you gave good words, you were able to be bumped up to a distinguished.
I am a control freak. I love being in control. The planning and organizing, that is me. So allowing the students to have more of a say in assessments and their mode of learning and giving them choices in how they showed me that they were learning the material, that was a huge challenge for me.
I like structure, so it was really hard to just let things go and let the kids really take control and be the leaders in the classroom.
When you first looked at it, it was very daunting. When you went in and you started pulling down those boxes, and there was 22 of them, and you started reading it, it was like, oh my gosh, I have to have evidence, I have to have this, I have to have that. It was like, I'll never be able to do this, I never have time to do all this. But once you started looking at them a little closer, and then even if you took it back, if you went to the actual Danielson book, which I highly recommend people do, because it gives a narrative for each of those 22 boxes. So it kind of spells out and even gives ideas of what you need to be looking for. And once you get past that, then it was very easy to plan lessons.
I learned by going through this process that if I plan to influence kids, that I should always be in a mode of getting it or getting something new. And since you can't hit every single component and distinguished every time, I figured that I could probably teach for the next 25 years and still work on them all to get to that point.
It's good to be self-reflective, to go back and look at the things that you have worked on and the things that definitely need improvement and the things that you're really doing well as a teacher.
Not only is it helpful, but it's kind of reassuring, because I think every teacher, no matter how long they've been in the system or how much time and effort they put in, always wonders what they could be doing better or if they're really getting through to their kids. And I think this setup makes it much easier to tangibly see what the kids are getting from what you're doing.
I think the greatest lesson I learned this year is that my students can still surprise me, and in a good way. They can still do things that I didn't expect, and by giving them a little bit less of a holding hand kind of as we're going through it, they're able to do even more than I ever expected that they could do.
Don't feel overwhelmed. Take your time and do not be afraid to ask questions. Even all the way up until the end of this process, I was still asking questions, other colleagues were asking questions, and know that you're not the only person that's going through this.
You have to be flexible. You have to let the students take control, and you have to be willing to do things that you've never done before. And even if it doesn't work, you're going to learn something from it, and that's what this particular endeavor kind of encourages from teachers, is trying new things and being open to new ways to engage your students and new ways to reach them, and then allowing them to show you in different ways that they've learned it. And that's not something we ever really had before.
Being patient with the process is really important, and being open to it, and just using it as a tool to learn as much as you can about yourself. And I know one of the things that was helpful for me was to see myself as more of a facilitator, as an administrator in this process. I'm not really there to push people as much as I am to ask them questions and cause them to reflect and guide themselves. So it's more about, teachers have to get used to giving the ownership over to their students, and we have to get used to, as administrators, giving the ownership of the evaluation process over to the teacher.
Be patient with yourself, be patient with the kids, and be patient with your administrators and evaluators, the people that are actually coming to see you, because it's a process that you're all going to be going through. It's something new, and when we get something new, the first thing we do is we have our little resistors. Don't be a resistor. Just embrace the process. If you have questions, ask. If you don't understand something, ask. And if there's no immediate answer, just wait. It's coming, or it's being worked out some way. But just do what you can with what you have to help the kids that are right in front of you. And I found that everything else just kind of falls into place as long as you're not resistant.